Hello friends, and welcome to a new video and story. In June 2015, the residents of Springfield, Missouri, were shocked by the murder of Claudina D.D. Blanchard, who was stabbed to death. She was known among the locals as a kind and caring mother who devoted herself to her 17-year-old daughter, who was believed to suffer from muscular dystrophy, leukemia, asthma, and a series of other illnesses that confined her to a wheelchair. The residents' shock deepened a few days later when authorities announced that the disabled daughter and her boyfriend were the killers, and they were arrested. The question that immediately came to many people's minds was, how could a teenage girl who is paralyzed and helpless commit such an act? And how could she bring herself to kill the mother who had devoted her life to taking care of her? The surprise hidden from everyone lies here. The daughter, Gypsy, was not actually a teenager. She was a young woman in her 20s, and she was completely healthy, with no disabilities or health problems. However, she was forced to pretend to be ill her entire life. How and why? Let's go back to the beginning of the story to uncover the details. Claudina D.D. Blanchard was born in Chack Bay, Louisiana, near the Gulf Coast, in 1967, and was raised with her family in nearby Golden Meadow. From a young age, D.D. displayed deviant behavior, occasionally engaging in minor thefts, often out of revenge when things didn't go her way. At some point early in her life, she worked as a nurse's aide. At 24, she became pregnant by her husband, Rod Blanchard, who was 17 at the time. Shortly before the birth of Gypsy Rose in July 1991, the couple separated when Rod realized that marrying Dee had been a mistake. Despite Dee's efforts to get him back, he insisted on the separation. After the separation, Dee took her newborn daughter Gypsy, who was born prematurely, and moved in with her family. Gypsy had no health problems, other than a slightly smaller head due to her premature birth. However, Dee was adamant that her daughter suffered from sleep apnea and a series of other illnesses, which she attributed to a chromosomal disorder. She took her to several hospitals and doctors and had her monitored while sleeping, but none of this revealed any significant illness in the young girl. Dee's mother passed away in 1997, and the family suspected that Dee might have poisoned her. When Gypsy was 7, she fell while riding her grandfather's motorcycle and sustained a minor knee injury. However, Dee insisted that the injury was severe and forced her to use a wheelchair, even though she didn't need it. From that point on, Gypsy never left the wheelchair. Dee also pulled her out of school in the 2nd grade and insisted on homeschooling her. She regularly shaved Gypsy's head to make her look like a cancer patient and forced her to take various medications, such as epilepsy drugs. Dee also made Gypsy eat through a feeding tube and always kept an oxygen tank with her. If Gypsy didn't comply, Dee would severely punish her, including tying her to her bed for weeks. In August 2005, after Hurricane Katrina destroyed their home, Dee and Gypsy moved to Covington, where special housing for people with disabilities was available. Dee claimed that all of Gypsy's medical records, including her birth certificate, were lost in the flood. A doctor suggested they relocate to Missouri, and they were flown there the following month. Initially, Dee and Gypsy lived in a rented house in Aurora, in the southwest part of the state. During their time there, Gypsy was honored by the Oli Foundation, which supports children with special needs. Dee and Gypsy later moved to Springfield, where an organization built them a small house with a wheelchair ramp to accommodate Gypsy's needs. The story of the single mother and her severely disabled daughter, who had to flee after the hurricane destroyed their home, garnered significant social sympathy and attention. Donations, funds, and even free flights for medical visits and vacations to Walt Disney World poured in. During this time, Rod, Gypsy's father, tried to stay in touch with her, but Dee thwarted his efforts in every way. She told her neighbors and friends in Springfield that Gypsy's father was an alcoholic, who never cared about his daughter's health problems and had never sent them any money or support. Of course, we all wonder why Dee would do this to her daughter. The evidence pointed to Dee suffering from Munchausen syndrome by proxy, a psychological disorder in which a caregiver exaggerates or fabricates the illnesses of those under their care to gain sympathy and attention. Dee received free housing, money, assistance, and medical and leisure trips meant for people with special needs, which encouraged her to continue and escalate her actions. This continued until neurologist Dr. Bernardo Flasterstein examined Gypsy in Springfield and expressed his doubts about Dee's behavior. Blood tests and MRIs showed no signs of muscular dystrophy in Gypsy, as Dee claimed. He informed her that he found no reason why Gypsy couldn't walk and move normally. He contacted Gypsy's previous doctors in New Orleans, who told him that the original muscle biopsy for Gypsy had come back negative, contradicting Dee Dee's claim that her daughter had dystrophy. His suspicions deepened when Dee Dee claimed that all of Gypsy's medical records were destroyed in the hurricane. Dee Dee stopped visiting him, fearing her deception would be exposed. The situation remained unchanged until Gypsy became a young woman and started to rebel against her mother's control and abuse. Her first escape attempt was with someone she met online, but Dee Dee quickly found her in a hotel room with him and brought her back home. She punished her severely, tying her to her bed for 2 weeks. In 2012, Gypsy, who continued to use the internet without her mother's knowledge, met Nicholas Godejohn, who had a criminal record and some mental and psychological issues. Their relationship quickly deepened, and they communicated regularly. One day, Gypsy asked her boyfriend to come to their home because she decided to kill her mother. He came, and after Dee Dee went to bed, Gypsy handed him a knife, duct tape, and gloves, and asked him to go in and kill her mother. He asked her to go to the bathroom and cover her ears so she wouldn't hear her mother's screams. Godejohn then went in and stabbed Dee Dee multiple times until she died. Afterward, he and Gypsy had sex, stole some money that Dee Dee had in the house, and fled to a hotel outside the city, where they stayed for several days. Surveillance cameras captured images of them wandering in stores. The killers thought they had gotten away with their crime. A few days later, they boarded a bus bound for Wisconsin, where Godejohn lived, with Gypsy disguising herself with a wig. Days after the incident, Gypsy and Godejohn posted messages on Dee Dee's Facebook account, one of which read, "That bitch is dead," and another, "I killed that fat pig and raped her sweet daughter." When Dee Dee's friends saw the posts, they were alarmed. At first, they thought her account had been hacked and tried to call her to check on her, but received no response. They decided to go to her house and knocked on the door for a long time, but there was no answer, so they called the police. Officers arrived and entered the house to find Dee Dee's body in a pool of blood. They noticed Gypsy's wheelchair and feeding tube in the house, but Gypsy herself was missing, so they feared for her safety. However, a neighbor's daughter named Woodmansey knew about Gypsy's relationship with Godejohn and told the police everything she knew, including his name. The couple was soon arrested. After the truth about Dee Dee's treatment of Gypsy over the years was revealed, everyone who knew them was shocked and stunned. Sympathy quickly shifted from Dee Dee to Gypsy, who had endured abuse since childhood. Under Missouri law, Gypsy was supposed to face the death penalty or life imprisonment, but given the exceptional nature of her case, as described by the prosecutor, and after her lawyer obtained her medical records, she was sentenced to only 10 years in prison. Her boyfriend Godejohn is still awaiting trial. Later, Gypsy stated that despite being in prison, she now feels freer than she ever did while living with her mother, and that she can now live as a normal woman. It's worth noting that there is a movie about this case titled Mommy Dead and Dearest, as well as some documentaries. In conclusion, I would like to ask you, friends, is she a criminal or a victim? Please leave your answers and opinions in the comments. This was our story for today. See you in the next one, friends.